How did you learn Korean? I get this question a lot from my Korean friends and my foreign friends because my Korean sounds a little bit more natural. It sounds like how a Korean person would actually talk in daily life. Today I'm going to share you 5 tips on how I personally learned Korean. It's gonna be unconventional, but trust me, it's gonna be much more fun. It's a bonus tip that accelerates your learning experience, so stick until the end to find out. To clear things up, I'm not Korean. My parents are Vietnamese and I grew up in Germany. And no, Vietnamese and Korean is not similar, so knowing another Asian language did not help me learning for Korean. Learning a language is not hard, even children can do it. But why is it so hard then? First, we tell ourselves learning a new language is hard. Second, school messed us up really bad by focusing too much on the grammar being right or wrong instead of communication. Because language is a tool to communicate from one person to another. The grammar actually don't matter. All you need is past, present, and future tense. That's it. Everything else is for the teacher to have a job. Like the last time you went on vacation and you didn't know the language, but it still didn't prevent you from communicating to another person and they still understood you. So that's how it works. Language is not about being grammar right or wrong. It's about communication from one person to another. So here are my 5 tips. Tip number 1. Get exposed to the language. Before I even started learning Korean, I was watching Korean dramas and listening to K-pop all day long. To 2014, I probably watched all dramas that was ever released. What it does to you is it makes you learn subconsciously by imitating the sound and action. When the time comes you actually start learning Korean, you pick up the words really quickly. Tip number 2, learn the Korean alphabet Hangul. I personally think it's one of the easiest writing systems because it's so logical. It took me less than an hour to understand the system. Of course, it took me a little bit longer to remember all the letters, but the system can be learned really quickly. The benefit of learning Hangul and you start to read and write is that it doesn't interfere with your pronunciation. Because if you learn it by Latin alphabet, it really messes up your pronunciation because things are written differently every time. If you know the source, you can learn it by the source and it will become much easier and much more natural for you to speak. Once you start mastering Hangul, it's so much fun to watch Korean dramas because you pause at every scene where you can see letters and start deciphering it. You will feel like a spy because you learn some secret code that nobody else can read except you. Tip number 3, chatting and messaging in Korean was a great way to learn how to read and write Korean because the conversation didn't happen in real time, so you have time to think, read it, translate it, use the dictionary, or you can create the sentence and translate it back into your language to see if it makes sense, and then you send it. In this way, you learn how to read, write, and type. During my exchange semester, I made a lot of Korean friends and I would only chat with them in Korean. And if you've never been to Korea before and don't know anyone in Korea, you can use apps like italki, HelloTalk, or Bumble to meet another person to chat with. Of course, just for language exchange. Tip number 4, turn on Korean subtitles or captions to improve your listening experience. You'd think, how would it improve my listening when I'm constantly reading? Usually you can read and write better than you can listen or speak. So listening and reading aligns 2 different sensors together, and after a while you can catch up with the speed of how they talk and you don't need to read anymore. The benefits: first, it improves your reading. You will read much faster, and second, you will also understand a lot more. I personally like to watch a lot of variety shows because they have big ass captions everywhere. When I don't know a word, I just pause, I read the caption, I type it in a dictionary, and then I learn word by word, and after a while you have a lot of words in your memory. It takes away a little bit of the fun instead of watching it all, but you will learn, and in the end you can watch it without subtitles in the future. Tip number 5, just start speaking. Even with the limited vocabulary that you have, start throwing out everything you have. You will never feel like you're ready, so why not use what you have? And from there you can build a lot of more tools and it will accelerate your speaking ability a lot faster. When I came to Korea to travel every single year, I mostly talk English with my friends, and my friends would reply back in Korean. So we had this two-way communication where one speak English, one spoke Korean, and we both understood each other. Hey, 안녕, 잘 지내고 있어? Yeah, I'm doing good. How about you? 잘 지내고 있어. And that's how we talked. But then this time, I just decided to set my Korean as my default language. And when I meet new Korean friends, I just start talking to them in Korean first. After a while, they find out I'm not from Korea, I'm not even Korean, and then they will get surprised. But we still talk in Korean. So here's a bonus tip: date a Korean. I'm telling you from experience, it will accelerate your learning experience so much faster. So last but not least, very important, have fun learning the language. Don't get upset with yourself for not using the right grammar or pronouncing the words wrong or something like that. Have fun with it, learn as you go, and nobody's perfect, but we strive for perfection, and that's what counts. So which of the tips have you found helpful? Write it in a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell so you won't miss out on anything, and see you tomorrow.